Stop before you do anything else today, before you check your phone, before you scroll, before you click away. I need you to hear one thing that rewired how Navy SEALs think, one thing that explains why some people push through hell and others collapse in comfort, one thing that, once you truly understand it, you will never, ever look at your limits the same way again. It's called the 40-80 rule, and it explains everything. I want you to think about the last time you quit something, not dramatically, not with some big announcement, just quietly. You were in the middle of it, maybe a workout, a project, a goal you told yourself mattered, and at some point a voice showed up. Calm, convincing, reasonable sounding. You're tired. This isn't working. You've done enough. And you listen. Because why wouldn't you? It felt true. Your body was heavy. Your mind was foggy. Every part of you was screaming that you'd hit your wall. So you stopped. And here's the thing nobody's talking about. That moment, that exact moment when you felt completely done, you weren't even close to done. You were at 40-80. Have you ever felt like you were giving everything, absolutely everything, only to look back later and realize you had more in you than you thought, that you could have gone further, held on longer, pushed a little harder? That's not a coincidence. That's not weakness. That's biology. And once you understand what's actually happening inside your mind when you hit that wall, you'll stop letting it win. Because here's the uncomfortable truth sitting right at the center of this video. Most people live their entire lives inside the 40-IE. They build careers in it. They form identities around it. They convince themselves that the ceiling they keep hitting is their actual ceiling, when in reality it's just the edge of their comfort zone dressed up in survival language. You are not most people. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to prove that to yourself. So what actually is the 40-APA rule? It was popularized by David Goggins, one of the most physically and mentally tested humans alive. But the science behind it goes deeper than any one person's story. The principle is this: when your mind sends you the first signal that you're done, that you're exhausted, that you've hit your limit, you have only used approximately 40% of your actual physical and mental capacity. Read that again. 40%. The other 60, i.e., it's still there, untouched, locked behind a gate that your brain installed not to protect your potential, but to protect your comfort. Here's the psychology behind why this happens. Your brain's primary job is not to make you great. It's to keep you alive. And in evolutionary terms, alive means safe, conserved, predictable. The moment you push into unfamiliar territory, real effort, real discomfort, real uncertainty, your brain triggers what neuroscientists call protective inhibition. It sends fatigue signals before your body actually fails as a precautionary warning system. Think of it like a car that has a full tank but a warning light that flips on when you're at half. The light isn't lying exactly. It's just designed to make sure you never run dry. But if you always pull over the moment you see it, you never find out how far you can actually go. And this is where it gets dangerous, because most of us have been pulling over at that warning light our entire lives. And over years, over decades of stopping there, we've trained ourselves to believe that warning light is the wall. We've built our entire self-image around the version of ourselves that exists within that first 40. Say, here's a real scenario. I want you to feel this. It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Marcus is sitting at his desk. He's been working on his side business for 6 months, building something he genuinely believes in, something he started because he was tired of the 9-to-5 feeling like slow suffocation. But tonight, the numbers aren't moving. His email list is at 214 people, the same as last week. His last 3 pieces of content got almost no engagement. His full-time job drained him today. His eyes are burning, his back aches, and the voice shows up. You're exhausted. You need to rest. Successful people also know when to take a break. Maybe this just isn't the right time. Maybe you should sleep and come back fresh. Every single word of that sounds reasonable. So Marcus closes his laptop, and the next morning he tells himself he'll get back to it. But the next morning becomes the next week. The next week becomes a month. And somewhere in there, quietly, without a dramatic moment, he stops. Not because he lacked talent, not because the idea was bad, not because the timing was wrong, because he listened to a voice that told him he was at 100T when he was only at 40. Does that sound familiar? Here's what most people don't realize about that voice. It gets louder the closer you get to something real. The moment your work starts to actually matter to you, to your future, to your identity, is the exact moment your brain increases the urgency of that retreat signal. Because real growth requires your brain to accept a new version of you. And your brain is deeply, fundamentally resistant to that. This is why the people who break through aren't always the most talented, the most gifted, or the most intelligent. They're the ones who learn to distrust the first signal. The ones who developed a relationship with discomfort that was different from everyone else. They stopped hearing "I'm done" as information. They started hearing it as a starting point. So what separates someone who lives inside the 40-yadi, comfortable, predictable, quietly disappointed, from someone who discovers what lives beyond it? It's not a workout routine. It's not a productivity system. It's not even discipline in the traditional sense. It's an identity shift. And here's the one that changes everything. You are not trying to do hard things. You are becoming the kind of person for whom hard things are normal. Say that again in your head. Let it land, because there's a massive difference between someone who forces themselves to push through pain, white-knuckling it, fighting every step, and someone who has rebuilt their internal identity to the point where persistence isn't effort. It's just who they are. One person is constantly battling their own brain. The other has changed the battlefield entirely. Here's the aha moment I want you to carry with you. Every single time you push past your first signal, every time you stay when the voice says leave, every time you do one more when everything screams stop, you are not just completing a task. You are rewriting the story your brain tells about who you are. Your brain is constantly updating its model of you, what you're capable of, how far you can go, what your limits are. And it doesn't update based on what you think or wish or plan. It updates based on what you do. Every time you quit at 40 AE, your brain logs that as your capacity. It files it away. This is where we stop. And next time it sends the retreat signal a little earlier. And the time after that, a little earlier still. But every time, every single time you push past it, even by 5 AOE, even by 10 minutes, even by one more paragraph, one more set, one more hour, your brain updates upward. And slowly what used to feel like your absolute limit starts to feel like the warm-up. But I need to tell you something hard right now. Something most people in this space won't say because it's uncomfortable. Nobody is coming to save you from your 40 essay. Not a mentor, not a motivational video, including this one, not a better morning routine or a new journal or a different app. Those things can point, they can guide, they can open a door. But the only person who can walk through it is you. And walking through it doesn't feel like inspiration. It doesn't come with a soundtrack or perfect moment. It usually comes at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday when you're exhausted and your eyes burn and the voice is saying every reasonable thing in the world and you just don't listen. That's the moment, that ordinary, ugly, unglamorous moment. That's where transformation actually lives. Here's the real reason so many people never find it. They're waiting to feel ready. They're waiting for the motivation to show up before they show up. They believe the feeling comes first and the action follows. But every person who's ever lived past their 40A will tell you the same thing. The feeling doesn't come before the action. It comes because of it. You don't feel strong and then push. You push, and that's what makes you feel strong. And this is where everything changes. Hey, if this is hitting you right now, if something in this script is making you think about a moment you walked away from, that reaction means you're still in it. You still care. You haven't given up on yourself. Not really. If this video is doing something for you, hit like right now. Not for the algorithm, for the person who's going to find this at 1 a.m. when they're about to quit on something that matters to them. That person needs this. Be the one who helped them find it. All right, let's keep going. Because this is where things get practical. Understanding the 40-hour rule in theory changes nothing. Using it changes everything. So here are 5 tools, real, specific, battle-tested ways to push past that first signal and start operating in a range you've never accessed before. The next time the retreat signal arrives, the voice that says you're done, you're tired, you've done enough. You don't fight it. You don't ignore it. You call it out loud if possible. In your head, if you have to, you say, I see you. I know what you are. You're not the wall. You're the warning light. Here's why this works. Psychologists call it diffusion, the practice of creating space between you and your thoughts so you stop treating every thought as absolute truth. When you name the signal, when you recognize it as a mechanism rather than a message, you interrupt the automatic response. Real life example, Serena, a 27-year-old graduate student finishing her dissertation. It's 2 a.m. She's staring at the blank page of chapter 5, and the voice is saying she's intellectually empty, that she doesn't know enough, that maybe she should check her email. Instead of obeying, she actually says quietly at her desk, that's the 40 talking. Then she opens a document and types one sentence, just one. And one sentence becomes a paragraph, and a paragraph becomes a page. Your application, when the voice shows up today, say it out loud, name it. Don't let it sneak up on you dressed as logic. Every evening, not every week, every evening, you ask yourself one question. Where did I stop today? And was that actually my limit? This isn't self-punishment. This isn't guilt. This is honest inventory. Not every answer will be I quit early. Some days you genuinely empty the tank, but most days, if you're honest, you'll find at least one moment where the voice showed up early and you accepted it. When you find that moment, you don't beat yourself up. You just note it. You log it, because awareness is the first tool and also the foundation every other tool is built on. Real application, keep a single line journal, one sentence a night. Today I stopped at LQ. Was that real? Yes. No. That's it. You'll be shocked what patterns reveal themselves in a month. This is the simplest and most powerful tactical weapon I can give you. When you hit your first signal, when you feel done, you commit to 10 more minutes, 10 more reps, 10 more lines, 10 more calls, 10 more seconds, not forever, not until you break. Just 10 more. Here's the psychology. The retreat signal peaks and then decreases. When your brain sends you that first wave of I'm done, it's waiting for confirmation that you stopped. If instead you signal back, we're doing 10 more, the brain begins recalibrating. The discomfort rarely intensifies. It often fades. And at the end of those 10, you're usually capable of 10 more. The 10 more rule doesn't ask you to be superhuman. It just asks you to outlast the signal by a margin small enough to feel possible. Application: set a physical cue, a word, a tap on your leg, a breath that you use every time you feel done. Then do 10 more. That cue becomes a trigger. That trigger becomes a habit. That habit becomes character. Here's the real reason most people stop at 40 IE. They've assigned a meaning to discomfort that says, this is bad, this is wrong, this means something is broken. But what if discomfort wasn't a warning? What if it was a compass? Every sharp edge of resistance, the boredom, the frustration, the mental fog, the I don't want to, is data telling you that something real is happening. You are at the frontier. You are at the exact edge where growth lives. Pain in the process means the process is working. And this is where it gets interesting, because once you flip that meaning, once discomfort starts to feel like proof instead of punishment, your relationship with hard things changes completely. You stop bracing for it. You start looking for it. Application: next time you feel resistance, say this: good, this is exactly where I need to be. It's not a lie. It's a more accurate story. This is the most powerful tool and also the least used. When you're at your 40 IE, when everything in you wants to stop, you don't think about the task in front of you. You think about who you're becoming by doing it. The person I'm building right now doesn't stop here. That's it. That one sentence, not I have to do this, not I should push through, but the person I'm becoming, that person keeps going. Because here's the shift. Discipline driven by guilt is exhausting. Discipline driven by identity is energizing. When pushing through becomes an expression of who you are rather than a demand placed on you, everything changes. You stop fighting yourself and start running toward yourself. Application: write one sentence on a card or in your phone. I am the kind of person who for. Put it somewhere you see when the voice shows up. Let future you pull present you forward. Let me show you what this actually looks like in real life, not in a training facility, not in a Navy SEAL scenario. In the ordinary, uncinematic Tuesday afternoon version of your life, imagine Daniel, 29 years old, works in finance, wants to build something of his own, has for 3 years. He has a course idea, a YouTube channel he keeps starting and abandoning, a Notion workspace with 40 unfinished project outlines. Every single time the same thing happens, he starts with energy. He builds momentum for 2, maybe 3 weeks. And then, without fanfare, without drama, he hits his 40 IE. The engagement isn't growing fast enough. The process feels slower than he imagined. The voice arrives. It sounds like wisdom. Maybe I should learn more before I launch. Maybe I need to fix the branding first. Maybe I'm not ready. And Daniel, smart, capable, genuinely talented Daniel, listens. He pivots, he restarts, he audits, he reorganizes. He does everything except the one thing that would actually move the needle, pushing past the first uncomfortable signal. He's living in the 40 IE. And because it's been years, he's starting to believe that's where his ceiling is. Do you see what's happening here? He's not lazy. He's not a failure. He's just never been taught to distrust the first signal. Now imagine that same Daniel, 6 months after internalizing the 40 IE rule, same Tuesday afternoon, same resistance, same voice, but this time something different happens. The voice says, this isn't working. And Daniel says, quietly, automatically, almost boredly, that's the 40 IE talking. He opens his laptop anyway, not because he's fired up, not because a video motivated him, not because the fear went away, but because he made a decision 3 months ago that the version of himself he's building doesn't stop at the first signal. He records the video. It's not perfect. He publishes it anyway. It gets 47 views. He records another one. And here's the thing that most people miss, the results aren't what changed him. The act of not stopping changed him. The identity got rewritten in real time, one small override at a time. 6 months later, he's not a YouTube sensation. He's not rich, but he has 200 videos. He has a small, loyal audience. And he has a different relationship with his own brain. One where he's learned that the voice arrives early, that the voice is not the truth, and that past the voice is exactly where everything he wants actually lives. Transformation doesn't look like a movie. It looks like someone sitting alone at a desk, feeling everything the old version of themselves would have quit from, and continuing anyway. Have you ever felt that? That quiet, almost boring kind of courage? Because I think you have. I think there have been moments in your life where something in you kept going despite every reasonable signal to stop. And I think you remember those moments differently, with a kind of respect for yourself that the easy days never generate. That's what lives past the 40s. That's not someone else's life. That's the one waiting for you. I want you to picture something for a moment. Not a fantasy version of yourself, not an airbrushed highlight reel projection, something more real than that. I want you to picture the version of you that has lived outside the 40 IE for a year. Not every day perfectly, not without failure, but consistently, through the fog, through the flatness, through all the times the voice had 1,000 reasonable arguments. That version of you kept going. What does that person look like? They wake up and they don't need a perfect mood to start. They've broken the belief that motivation comes before action. They've learned in their bones that the feeling follows the doing, so they just start. Every time when hard things arrive, they don't panic, not because hard things don't hurt, but because they've built such a deep relationship with discomfort that it no longer reads as danger, it reads as direction. When people around them give up, they notice it without judgment because they used to be there. They know exactly what that voice sounds like, and they've simply learned a different answer to it. Their confidence didn't come from success. It came from consistency. Let that sink in. Confidence built on outcomes is fragile. It rises and falls with every result. But confidence built on showing up, on knowing that no matter what happens, you will do the next thing and the next and the one after that. That confidence is unshakable because it's not dependent on the external world. It lives entirely inside you. Here's the identity at the core of all of this. You are not someone who pushes through hard things despite who you are. You are someone for whom pushing through is simply what you do. That shift from I have to this is who I am is the entire game. Because when your actions align with your identity, discipline stops being a fight. It becomes an expression. You don't have to convince yourself every morning. You just live like yourself. And the version of yourself that lives past the 40 ati, that person is already inside you. Not in the future, not after you hit some milestone or earn some number or achieve some status. Right now, today, in the decision you make the next time the voice shows up. That's all it ever was. Not a big dramatic transformation moment. Just that one decision made again and again until the person you always could have been becomes the person you actually are. So here's where we land. The 40 IQ rule isn't just a Navy SEAL concept. It's not a biohack. It's not a weekend challenge. It's a complete reorientation of your relationship with your own limits. It's the understanding that the voice telling you you're done is an early alarm, not a verdict, that your ceiling is not where you think it is, that everything you want, the focus, the resilience, the unshakable self-belief lives in the 60 IC you keep leaving on the table. And you have everything you need to get there. Not someday. Not when life gets calmer or easier or cleaner. Now, today, the next time you feel done, especially then, because that moment, that exact moment is not the end of your effort. It's the beginning of your edge. Your mindset is your most powerful weapon. Now go use it. Beat, let it breathe. If this video meant something to you, if you heard something here that you needed, hit like. It takes 1 second and it helps someone exactly like you find this when they need it most. Subscribe to Unbreakable Mindset if you're ready to stop living inside the 40 AE. Because every week we go deeper into the psychology, the tools, and the real work of becoming who you're capable of being. And the next video, it goes even further. Watch it. You'll know why.